Black Fundraisers Podcast. This lock right here. What up, Kia?
At lock 121.
Get the check out like a physical. We get the checks and the Cheerios. Counting like chocolate cereal. We need the fun and residuals. We get the money and figure, cause we gotta get it. We talking finances, funding and grant biz. Getting and making advances, taking chances with the hot topics. Racism, politics, non-profits. Kia Kroon, she gon' drop knowledge. Whatever you want, the pod got it. Get your facts right. Deep dive and get baptized. Black business, black life, black money, black power, black pride. And the POCs tryna see those fees like a casino sitting on TOP. We just spitting our POV. We gon' ride till we on E. We pushing the pedal, we over the limit. We never gon' settle, we been with the business. Every episode is gon' be the realest. Every week you gotta pay us a visit. Come on and hang, hot as a flame. Hating is lame, taking the aim. Changing the game, staying our lane. Breaking the chains, making it rain. Making it hurricane. Kia Kroon, now you heard the name. The Black Fundraisers Podcast, that's on everything.
Hello out there. I hope everybody is having a good day. We are close to the weekend, and I gotta admit, I need it. I thought I would pop on here as I do with just a quick reflection, if you'll indulge me. Like many of you, my heart is heavy learning that HIV/AIDS activist, sister, I feel like Hydeia Broadbent and her passing really marks something significant that we need to reflect on. She was born with HIV, the HIV virus. And I remember seeing her, the first time I ever learned about her was when she was on Sally Jessy Raphael. I was maybe 7, 8 years old. And I remember watching Sally, I think with my mother, and hearing her describe living with HIV at the age of, goodness, I don't think she was any older than, well, actually, she had to be about 5. I don't think she was any older than 5 when she did that episode. But she talked about her lived experience with the virus. She was born with it. She contracted it congenitally from her mother, who was an IV drug user. We're talking about the 80s. We're talking about the height of the AIDS epidemic, as it was called at that time. We're talking about the height of the war on drugs and the crack cocaine epidemic. I'm not going to get on my soapbox and talk about what we know about the war on drugs, the crack cocaine epidemic, and the Reagan administration, America's role and all of that. But what I will say is Hydeia brought something that I don't remember anyone else bringing to light during that point in time. She shed a light on the fact that, yeah, there are kids being born infected with this virus. Right. And while society, you had groups of people looking at AIDS as though it was, a gay person's disease or a disease that, was rampant among people that were intravenous drug users or sex workers or what have you. I feel like Hydeia Broadbent's story, the fact that she contracted this from her mother, when her mother was pregnant, shed light on the fact that amid all of this, while everybody's pointing fingers and demonizing, groups of people, Black, brown, LGBT, whatever you have it, there were children, innocent children, that were being impacted by this disease. And society had to begin to look at the humanity instead of, you know, pointing the finger and spreading the stigma, you know, fanning the flames of stigma for people that were living with HIV/AIDS. You know, you had this group of people, children, were turning up in hospitals, exhibiting symptoms, and, you know, being diagnosed with the virus. And it forced America, by my estimation, so I believe, to really begin to humanize what is happening. And, you know, that there are casualties in this, right? Her story shed a light on that. And I just remember watching this little girl, and I was a little girl myself, talk about her lived experience with the HIV virus, talk about having coded, having almost died. She talked about the fact that she did not know her mother. Her mother had, you know, left her at the hospital within hours or days of giving birth to her, had abandoned her at the hospital. She was adopted, and she was fortunate enough to be adopted by a family that was showing her love and, you know, invested in ensuring that she was healthy and happy, and that she enjoyed some degree of normalcy, which is what she always sought, was normalcy. Hydeia strived to live as normal of a life as she could, living with the virus. Over the years, she, you know, matured, and I just remember how brave she was to open her life up to the world, right? And share this very, very touching story. It was a story of triumph. It was took incredible courage. She was incredibly brave to even share her life with America. And I just remember watching her for the last 35 years or so, 32, 33 years or so, devote her life to educating others about the virus, devote her life to encouraging people to be safe out here in these streets, whether you're using intravenous drugs, whether you are, you know, in a community, you know, where you're at high risk for coming in contact with the virus. Whoever you were, whatever color you were, Hydeia made it her mission to educate and encourage you to be safe in these streets. She didn't have a choice. She was born into this construct, but she devoted her entire life to encouraging others to make the choice that she did not have the luxury of making, right? Which is being safe, you know, which is practicing safe sex, right? Harm reduction. I remember that, and her story just reminds me, because I remember what it was like growing up in the 80s as a little girl when the crack epidemic was ravishing Black and brown communities, and you had people doing things they'd never done before. You had broken homes, you had, you know, people abandoning children, and, you know, there was crime, there was upticks in prostitution and drug use and all of these things. I remember I have very visceral memories of things that I actually saw. And I tell people, I'm in therapy even now for some of those things that I saw as a little girl. And I said all of that to say this: her story shed light on what nobody was talking about at the time. The fact that, yeah, beneath all of these different layers, right, beneath all of these systems of oppression, beneath all of the inequities around health, beneath the fact that in Black and brown communities, if you had an addiction to drugs, that wasn't considered a mental health concern. You know, you were criminalized, right? There was no humanity for you. There was no redemption. Hydeia's story shed light on the fact that, yeah, there are some people who are really casualties. When you think about all of this, when you lay everything down, there are kids that are being impacted by this. What is society going to do about this? You know, when does the finger pointing stop? And when is the lens really put on showing the humanity that folks have? You know, whether you were a person with a suffering with a drug addiction, whether you were whoever you were, her story brought humanity to the forefront. And I just wanted to take a moment and share that reflection. I have very vivid memories of how life was back in the 80s. Having a diagnosis of HIV or AIDS was essentially a death sentence at that time. There was no Truvada. There weren't drugs on the market that were helping people to prevent transmission. You know, the drugs that, you know, folks like Magic Johnson might have hoped or dreamed about weren't available to folks at that time. So about 10 years ago, I had an opportunity, 10, 12, 13 years ago, I had an opportunity to interview Hydeia, and we talked about what her lived experience was and her thoughts were when the FDA introduced Truvada to the market for discordant sexual partners, being a partner that is living with HIV, having sexual intercourse with someone who is HIV negative, right? Truvada reducing the risk of transmission from the person living with the virus to the reducing the rate at which it would be transmitted to the non-infected person. We had a conversation about that, and her words were, okay, this is great. I don't know how treatment adherent folks are going to be. You know, if folks aren't using condoms, are they really going to take a pill every day? Right? She talked to me about the fact that one of her medications that she relied on, one pill, cost her $1,000, a daily pill, $1,000 a day. And she talked to me about how she tells people condoms are a lot less expensive. Not telling you not to have sex, not telling you to do what you do. I just want you to do it safely because you do not want to live in this construct that I'm living in, right? This is what my life is like. But beyond that, she had dreams. She wanted to be a business owner, an entrepreneur. She wanted to marry. She wanted to have children, you know, all of the things. And I just remember watching her over the years on social media, doing all the things, dancing, going to beaches, doing, you know, her talks and her advocacy across the country, and just wanting to live as normal a life as she could. While I'm sad, I think that my sadness is rooted in the fact that she lived with so much abandonment and torment. I mean, unspeakable abandonment. You know, as a person that is in therapy for challenges around abandonment issues, me personally, I'm divulging that. You know, knowing that you were abandoned by your mother. You know, that is a heavy, heavy mantle to carry through life. I don't care who you are. I don't care how strong you are, how big your shoulders are. That is painful stuff. I think that for me, I'm not so much grieving her death. I think that I'm grieving the fact that this was a beautiful soul who was dealt a difficult hand and did everything she could to live as meaningful, as peaceful, as happy and healthy of a life that she could, despite those circumstances. I'm comforted in knowing that she's no longer suffering, that she's no longer having to fight. I do know that Hydeia was a believer. She was a believer in Christ Jesus, and she had incredibly strong faith. And I know where she's at. I have no doubt. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad she got her wings. I know she has her crown, and I know the Lord gonna put some bling bling in it, because that was one dynamic sister. So while I'm saddened, it's not because she's no longer here in that body and in this construct. It's just sadness knowing that, you know, she had to deal with all the challenges of life that were presented to her in this body. So I just wanted to share that. I want to send prayers and thoughts and the best wishes to anybody else like me who remembers her story, who had a personal or professional connection to her, because it is indeed a loss. And I don't think that this sister received her due credit for really forcing America to stop the finger pointing and look for the humanity. You know, look for the humanity. Look at the humanity of people living with the virus that causes AIDS, right? Forget all the who shot John, the finger pointing. Yeah, there are kids, innocent children that were impacted by this. And she brought that story to light. And I thank her, Hydeia. I just thank you. And I'll never forget you. So, folks, thank you for hearing. I know I didn't necessarily have the most sophisticated words. I'm not talking by a script. I'm talking from my heart and my lived experience. And, you know, I hope I've said something that resonates with you. And just like that, I'm out. I'll see you next time.
You in a position very few people have been in. Now we on the money mission. We on the money mission. If they didn't listen, then they didn't have the vision. Cool, we on the money mission. We on the money mission. Get your money up, money up, money up, money up, money up. Get your money up, money up, money up, money up, money up. Get your money up, money up, money up, money up, money up. Get your